So I want to talk about U.S. citizenship for just a moment, and this is U.S. citizenship, military. I don't know where I got this from, but we're going to read some more, I guess, somewhere around here. Um, so if we're understanding that the federal lands are lands of the United States and basically related to military areas, military territories, which are, we know now, all over the world, then citizenship has to do something with being in the military. So let's say that it's 1800 and there's an army man on an army post and he gets married and his wife comes onto the army post to live with him. He has to be approved for citizenship. The reason why is because the government was worried about spies, so they weren't going to let just anybody onto a military post. She had to be vetted. And so these people had to go through a process of becoming US citizens. So the man became a citizen when he enlisted into the military, but then his wife would have to become a citizen too, so that she could stay on the military post with him. And naturally, if their children were born on a military post, they would be citizens. So this is kind of, you can see why they had to also allow for a federal citizen, like a child, a baby born on a military post, to also be a state citizen, because once the parents left the military post, the child went with them. The parents could go back to their state where they're from, but the child would have no state citizenship. So, whatever state the military post was in, the child would be given citizenship of that state also. So now we have to expand this to someplace overseas. The same would happen overseas. Let's take, for example, Vietnam. A lot of military men went to Vietnam to fight, but then they would marry a Vietnamese woman. So we had just been in a war with Vietnam or Korea, whichever. And so these women that they would marry, they wouldn't be just allowed to come on the military post. They had to go through a process of acquiring citizenship. And then we had some issues with when they have a child. So you have a father who's a US citizen serving overseas and a mother who's a Vietnamese or Korean or Guatemalan or whatever. And where is the baby? Is the baby born on the land of the United States, on federal lands, on the military post, or is it born off the military post? So the baby would have dual citizenship. It would be a citizen of the United States, but then it would also be a citizen of Vietnam, uh, Guam, Puerto Rico, wherever. So in those cases, the baby would have dual citizenship. So there were a lot of things that had to be worked out. Well, when a person who's not familiar with these ideas and the whole concept of the federal government being a military government for military people, and that the citizenship of the United States is for those military people and their wives and their children, so that they can live or work on the military post, they don't see it from the proper perspective. And so they read these laws and they say, well, that applies to me and that applies to my children, and I have to do all these things. But that's not exactly true. So if we look at the other videos I've posted and we start to recognize that you can be an American or a citizen of one of the states, join the military through an enlistment contract or commission, which is just another type of contract. Then after that, you become a citizen of the United States. And when they have children or get married, those people become citizens of the United States, but they also become citizens of the state. Then when you read some of these amendments to the Constitution where it says you're a citizen of this place and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, it makes more sense when you can see it that way. So they talk about a child born after the parents are married. They talk about a child born um, out of marriage, and what happens, to the child. What citizenship does he have? He has dual citizenship. I think it's basically the same um, citizenship process as if they were married, as long as the father sort of accepts, the baby, whatever, in or out of wedlock, in wedlock, marriage between, and nowadays we have women in the military and they go overseas and they may become pregnant by a person of that country. And so the same thing would apply. Okay. Child of two U.S. citizen parents. So you have two military members, both of them in the military, both, let's say, in the army, and they get married and they have a child. So um, they cover that. And so you can read this at uscis.gov. And it's if you read it, understanding that the federal government is the federal lands for military purposes, whether they're temporary post, permanent post, overseas post, post in peaceful lands, post in war lands. It doesn't matter. These are the federal territories, the federal lands, federal military posts, and they cover the citizenship of the people in the military and outside of the military, and two people in the military, and what kind of citizenship that child will have.